Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on this link, however you received it. I'm Campbell, and you may know me from The Wave, and this is my lovely wife, Michelle. And we've just had on our heart to just check in like the best way we can. And we know that everyone's kind of struggling with what's going on in the world right now. And we're all thinking of new and in kind of interesting ways to connect with each other. And we just kind of thought, I know what we should do. We should do a kind of interviewing process with all the legends that we have at church. And we've just got some amazing people. And we'll just check in and just be able to have a conversation and just learn some really valuable information. And we're just really hoping that this could be a blessing for you, that it'll be something you look forward to. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. So we have a few things coming up on our agenda. We'll be talking to Dave Adams about World Health. We'll be talking to my boot camp instructor, Lee Collins, about physical health. But today we have the legendary Kaye, who is a professional counsellor, amongst many things. She's worked with Michelle and I. She's done so many things. We did the marriage counselling course together. Kaye was the heartbeat and backbone behind it. Like, she's got so many feathers in her hat. I could go on this podcast and just talk about Kaye, but that's not what we're here for. This is Kaye, and today we're just going to just check in with just mental health today, and just really, just learn some valuable lessons on how to get through this time that we find ourselves in. So, like, we've had this wild week where so much has changed and it's all out of control, and it just felt really like a good idea, which is to check in with professionals that can kind of guide us through some of these things. So Kaye, let's just have a little conversation about mental health and what to do with it in this weird time.
Thanks, Campbell. Well, look, I may have some training behind me, but I'm coming also as an ordinary person who's in the middle of this roller coaster, like us all. And I know myself that I've been disorientated and finding it a bit harder to concentrate. And I've heard those comments from other people who have come and spoken to me. And in that disorientation, over checking the news and having lots and lots of conversations either by phone or by some other technology, in some ways trying to nut out what on earth is going on. But behind all that, feeling just a bit more hyper alert, I think, and finding it hard to focus down on, doing what I would most like to do. So I think the days have been a roller coaster for me. Perhaps as time goes on, have been trying to settle that down a bit.
You're totally right. Like, I totally are struggling with keeping a rhythm going that feels normal. And I work from home. I should be a professional at this. Like, this should be like super easy for me, but it's not. Like, the kids are at home and it's just changed. It's not, the rhythm is really hard.
Oh, look, the rhythm must be, it's a bit easier for Hal and I, there's just the two of us, but for yourselves and lots of other people who have got children at home, and it looks like you're going to have children at home for quite a while, I just can't imagine what the rhythm must be like in all the challenges for you as parents, but also for each child, as all of their things have closed down around them.
Yeah.
Kaye, I was thinking, we get oftentimes when we have kids at home, we get really focused on the kids. That just kind of becomes, priority number one. But if there's couples that are watching this, I think it's a really valuable thing to speak to strategies or things that couples can do to maintain connection. Because oftentimes, the father, the mother, we've both got that common focus of the kids, and we might not even be on the same page and not even know it. And it just can get to be a little bit, we're bouncing around four walls, and it can get a little bit tricky. Do you have any kind of strategies for couples to kind of maintain that connection and keep that kind of top priority?
Well, Michelle, I think it's whenever we are under stress, I guess the advice generally is try to keep as many routines going as you can, because we're all feeling a bit out of control. The world's a bit out of control, and our anxiety takes us to a place of you know, wanting to go fast and wanting to gain control, but we're coming from a place of threat, really, and a place of fear. So how do we settle that down? Usually it is trying to at least keep going the things that that help to nurture us and to help to keep us safe. They might be just the really little things on what time you get up in the morning, you know, just because you're not maybe going to work anymore or you're working from home. It's not the best idea to binge television until 2 o'clock in the morning and start getting up at 10 o'clock.
What? Really?
Sorry about that, Campbell. It'll be very hard to re-enter the real world again. So in order, right across the family, for couples as well, and, you know, listening to parents in that first week when the children first came out of school, some parents were doing their best to maintain a school routine at home, rather than just collapsing it into holidays where we all sleep in and have a pajama day and eat, you know, the food that we maybe don't always eat. But trying to maintain routine, and at the same time, I guess that goes for couples as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're going to maintain routine like that with the children, well, then they will go to bed at their regular school time dates. Not right now, of course, because we're in holidays, but in those times, which hopefully then will give couples some time in the evening to continue to be together.
Yeah, I think like Michelle and I both switched in really quickly to getting a routine for the kids, like setting them up, making sure they're getting their homework done. I got a little boot camp thing going for the kids, and we got that rolling pretty naturally. But whatever we're on, are we on day 10? Whatever day we're on isolation, like Michelle and I have had one date night, like we've had a movie, and
well done.
Yeah, well done us. But yeah, like we haven't actually had the time or the headspace to focus in on us, which is yeah, you can't maintain that. That's a pace that can't, you know, it just doesn't work.
I guess it depends on the age of your children too, doesn't it? I guess we are still allowed to exercise outside at this point in time. So
you just saw my kid exercise behind Michelle.
Old enough to be left at home, grabbing some time if you're both working from home to at least go for a walk. So perhaps getting some, you know, one-on-one time in different kinds of ways than if you were at offices outside of home in your usual routine. So. And I think getting outside as much as possible, like good food and exercise and regulating our sleep are all really important things to keep going at this point in time. And also to be looking after, Campbell, you and I had a brief conversation about this yesterday, I think, looking after our anxious runaway thinking.
Yeah.
And Helen and I have tried to, in the last couple of days, have an agreement that we will look at the news in the morning and we'll look at it again at night.
Yeah, that's good.
We won't keep flicking over to our phone all the time, looking for the next update and the next update and the next update. Because it's continuing to feed the hype and the anxiety around what's going on. And certainly in the early days, I think we're all doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Like my phone gives me an update on how much media time I've spent. And like it was insane. It was off the charts for Instagram and Facebook. Like I've never been on it so much in my life. It was just, I was like, okay, I need to get this under control. Like this is kind of taking over.
And even if it's not us tuning into the news or the current, you know, state of what's happening in the world, I know at least probably for many families, you know, we've provided different ways for our kids to connect with their friends, which means screens. And definitely, you know, I think when you get into those kind of stress periods where you're dealing with all these different things, the screen time as a family overall has kind of skyrocketed. And I feel like it was a compensating tool at first because we were feeling really bad that everybody was so disconnected, but the wheels have kind of come off and it's sort of like we need to bring it back in together again because you can see after accumulation of days that it does play, we're not all functioning at our best mental capacity, whether it's even receiving information, interacting with each other, just general mood. So I don't know.
Yeah, Michelle kind of spearheaded today getting off technical things and getting off screens. And this is actually,
Yes.
can we see this? This is a picture of Lovey in the garden. She took an art class. Is that focused?
Oh, well done. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and we went for a lovely walk on the back beach, staying on the, like, away from everyone, and it was really nice.
Yes.
But Kay, backing up on the getting control, yeah, I just kind of feel like we're in this super out of control period in our life, and that's where the fear creeps in. And I do find that, like, that headspace is just not as contained as control as it usually can be. And do you have any kind of, I don't know, thoughts on, like, really practical thoughts on how to get your headspace back into a controlled situation where you're not letting them run away, you're not starting to chase that fear and anxiety? And then I know you mentioned stop checking in on news, and that's really good. But even just that quiet time, I can find that if you're just sitting, like, alone in the quiet time, that headspace can still run, like, it can still go places.
Yeah. Look, I think any form of kind of worry and or anxiety is usually futuristic. We are worried about what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And we can allow our minds to run into that space and place.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, as we all know, lots of what we worry about doesn't actually happen. So we do spend an awful lot of time in our heads projecting and forecasting and wondering.
Yeah.
So I guess some of the mindfulness stuff, and, you know, this is scripture as well, you know, God asks us to mind our mind, you know, to stay in the present as much as we possibly can. And, you know, a very typical, the best medicine we've got naturally is our breath. So, you know, if we feel that we're running away and we're feeling tense in our body, just being able to stop and take about 3 really deep belly breaths, you know, and slow, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, through about an 8-second cycle, if you can go that long, has a wonderful way of being able to slow down the brain, releasing that adrenaline and releasing the cortisol, which creates our stress.
Yeah.
So, you know,
oh, well, okay. You'd be so proud of us there. Every morning we've been waking up, we get the whole family together, and we all kind of lay in this funny little circle where our heads are kind of pretty close. And we just lay on the ground, and we just breathe for about 4 minutes.
Fantastic.
Just deep breathing. And then we just finish it off, and then we just kind of pray. And that's how we've been starting our morning, just to quiet our headspace down. We'll lay any fears that we have, we'll talk about them and say, okay, what's on your heart? What's bothering you? What are you scared of? We acknowledge them, say, okay, yeah, that's totally legitimate and real. Like, yep. And then we just hand it over to God and say, that's your problem. And then we just pray about it. And it's been a really good way to start the day. And I've noticed that the days we haven't started it, things haven't gone as well.
That's wonderful, and it's great to hear that you're giving space for each of you to acknowledge what you are worried about too.
Yeah.
And nothing is too silly or too embarrassing to speak out about. And, you know, the old thing we use with our children, trouble shared is trouble halved. Giving people an opportunity to say what's on their mind, and to be able to breathe. And, you know, one of the breathing prayers is to take a word like peace or love or hope or joy, and in the inhale, breathe that in and know that God is giving us that. And on the exhale, allow yourself just to breathe out the clutter, you know, just let go of the clutter, and just inhale what the gifts that God has got very available to us, especially in times of trouble.
Yeah, that's so good.
And this morning we actually did it outside, and I think, you know, depending on where people are watching this from, we've been pretty blessed with great weather right now, which, you know, you never know what it's going to be like. And so to just get outside and get that vitamin D plus the breathing plus the prayer seems to just be, it's really important. It's really important to just get outside, whatever it is that it looks like.
Yeah.
Like, you understand all the fear that's out there. To a point, you even understand the toilet paper hoarding and the rice hoarding. Like, people are just reacting from a place of fear, and they don't know what to do, and they're trying to gain control. And that probably wouldn't be the first thing that comes to mind for me, but like you get what they're going through. Like they're just trying to cope, and yeah, it's
yeah, that's right. And yet it's also an opportunity, isn't it? Lots of people have been speaking, and as you've just shared things that are going on in your family, that it's creative, people are making, and lots of young parents that I've been in contact with are actually saying, we haven't spent this much time with our kids for a long time, and the kids are actually happy. We thought they'd be going berserk without their friends and without their routine and without their program, but they actually seem really happy just to hang out with us. My eldest son has had our old family billiard table stashed away in the back of his garage for years, probably a decade. And then, a couple of days ago, he sent a WhatsApp photo where it's all been dismantled from the garage and put up, in another part of the garage. They had to move everything out on the lawn. I don't know what they're going to do with that. But they have got it up. And the boys, his sons, were so delighted, ready to start a game that they've had there for 10 years, but they haven't had time to do it. Yeah. So, it's being creative with the time that we do have at home. I was just saying to Campbell, Michelle, at the start, we just had a Zoom birthday party for a 5-year-old, our granddaughter, where, there were about 15 of us on Zoom. It was very chaotic, but she was very excited, in her own home.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's so
good. But look, I really want to give a shout out to those people living alone. I think this is a really tough time. Someone said to me the other day, it's okay to speak to you like this, but, I haven't had a hug for 10 days.
Yeah.
So, I think our love and prayers around the people that we know who are living alone, and really trying to, reach out and send a text and ring them up and, keep in contact with the people that we love over this period of time.
Yeah, it's really, really important to, even for those of us that aren't living on our own, just to let our kids even know how important it is to be thinking about the other people in the community. So whatever you think you could do to sort of fill up somebody else's love tank a little bit, if it's to send them a letter or just an unexpected surprise. I should have brought it to show you. The other morning we went out to our mailbox and there was a rock and it was painted and it just had the word hope. I have no idea who gave it to us, but there are a few people that messaged us because they thought that our daughter had done them and said, "Oh, tell Lily we said thank you." I said, "Well, we didn't actually do it." So there's really simple, kind things, that we can do, I think, to help people feel appreciated.
Yeah,
it's easy to do, and it's easy not to do.
Yes, someone I know in Melbourne, a Christian friend in Melbourne, started Love Your Neighbour Melbourne on Facebook, for the very reasons you're talking about, Michelle, and started it on one day, and 3 days later there were 5,000 members. And, it's all about, do you need help, or what help can I offer, and all sorts of lovely stories coming out of that in terms of looking out for our neighbours.
The reality is it's going to be the extroverts that are struggling. The introverts are just loving it. They're just like, thank you. It's just like, this is easy. We've been training for this all our life. Like, it's been flipped up. We talked about this before, Kay. Like, we live in this extrovert world where people just acknowledge that, all extroverted things are the direction we should be going. That's what our world is. And all of a sudden these extroverts have to live in our introverted world. It's good. I like it.
Well, it's the other way around for a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Lena's message on Sunday, she was, the Jonah message. Some of us may have had time to have a look at that, but the word that stood out for me as she was speaking about it was confinement.
Yeah.
She spoke about Jonah in his confinement in the whale. And, what's it like to be in confinement? And solitary confinement sounds terrible. That's the sort of stuff I hate to watch if I'm watching a movie, when someone gets put into solitary confinement.
Yeah.
But we're not in solitary confinement, but we are in community confinement. And whilst that is hard, and I'm like you, Campbell, I go a bit stir crazy too. I would have loved to have gone out for breakfast this morning. Thought, oh, here we go again, same old. So So, but at the same time, I was thinking, Michelle, around those of us who have had children, confinement is an old-fashioned word for pregnancy. And just the way that little babe grows from something very small and continues to grow, and we become not that aware to begin with, but increasingly aware as the babe kicks and takes over more of our body. And I guess for me, that's a hope I'm holding in terms of reflection, that it won't just be a time where we're waiting for all this to be over, but it's a time to be reflecting on what's going on within us and around us. And something is growing, something is permeating. Perhaps the world won't go back to normal because maybe it shouldn't. Maybe there's lots of things that as we reflect, and it's going to be painful, just like childbirth at the end, if we're going to give birth to something different. But perhaps it's going to be new life in a way that we haven't had as the world's been going a bit mad and out of control, especially in later years, environmentally being one area.
Well, Kate, the concept of this was supposed to be a 5-minute interview, and I knew talking to you and Michelle, it was never going to be a 5-minute interview. I've got the free version of Zoom, so I've been given a warning that I'm coming up on my 40 minutes already.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
We need to stop.
We're going to have to cut out like really soon, or else it's just going to do it for us.
Maybe just a closing little thought on what Kaye said. You know, I was reflecting on, you know, how will our children talk to their children about this period? And it's just really encouraged me how to shape that. And, you know, I can't control it, but the way that we talk about it can certainly shape it, and it can be very, very positive.
Yeah, and if I could just encourage everyone, because we probably don't have time, just to read the amplified version of Colossians 3:15 and 16. And it just talks about the piece of Christ being on the heart, and that's the focus. So yeah, this has been awesome. Yeah. I just totally should have got the paid version so we could go more than 40 minutes.
And I just want to use part of Lena's prayer at the end on Sunday. She said, thank you, God, for being the rock under our feet and the hope in our hearts.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, thanks, you, Kate. Guys. This has been amazing. Bye, everyone.
Feel free to edit it in every way that you like.
No way. This is going live now. See ya.
Yeah. Bye-bye.